Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we're going to be working on this EG hatch. Got dropped off the other day, and the guy said that the Lugnuts fell off or something, so, or the wheel fell off when he was driving down the road from buying the car. He actually bought the car about 2 hours north of here, and he's got another like hour and a half from my shop to where he's at. So he dropped it off because it broke down right down the road, and we're going to dive into this thing and see what the hell's wrong with it. I can notice that the car has BMW bottle cap wheels on it, which is kind of funny. And I believe that this is the wheel, this is the problem, the culprit wheel that we are dealing with. You can see there's only 2 lug nuts and the other ones are broke off. So it almost looks like these are the wrong lug nuts. They don't seem like they would work that well on here just because the lug nuts are like recessed into the wheel. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to look at these wheels, but I think these are the wrong lug nuts. Not exactly sure. We'll look at that in a second. But I got the hood popped, and she's got a B16 under the hood. This is honestly one of my favorite Honda combinations, honestly. It's a white EG hatch with a B16. It's like my favorite little combo. When I was in high school, I actually went and looked at one of these cars, and I was just shy of affording it. And I wish I could have afforded it at the time, because I would have been way farther along in my Honda career had I gotten that car at that time. But, and it was pretty much the same exact thing as this. Like I said, white EG with a B16. Just like a perfect daily driver, high RPM screamer. And the B16 is one of the best motors, in my opinion, of the B series family. They just take a ton of power and don't flinch a bit. So first things first, we're just going to kind of do a visual inspection under the hood here. Right away I noticed that there's a missing motor mount bolt on this mount here. You only got the 2 outsides, which is probably fine, but you know, always best to have all 3 there. Just kind of scoping around here. It looks like we got an aftermarket fuel line on the car. That looks pretty nice. This looks like a resistor box of some sort. It is. It's a resistor box. Weird. Must have like OBD0 injectors in it or something. Shut up, heater. You're so loud. We got an aftermarket aluminum radiator in the car. It looks like it's got a DC style header. Actually, it looks like a long tube. Can't tell from right here, but looks like the, you know, tucked up short one like the DC Sport or whatever. You know, typical cone filter here. Napa Legend battery. Got some wiring going on down here. Not exactly sure, but yeah, should be fine. Check the coolant out. It's full. That's a first. What about this? One-handed wipe on the jeans. It's good. Little low. They all are. If it's not low, I'd be worried. Yeah, so it looks like there's like aftermarket clutch line on it. New starter. Brand new starter. Wow. So yeah, let's get this thing up in the air. First thing we got to do is we got to jack the car up, because the hoist arms don't fit under these cars a lot of times unless they're completely bone stock, which this one seems to be on some sort of suspension, which they all are. So we'll grab our floor jack. I like to either jack up the back end on the tow hook so I can just get it up high enough. Usually I can jack the back of the car up high enough to where I can fit all the hoist arms under it, or do the opposite and jack the front of the car way up. But there's not a lot of places on the front end of these cars to jack up in the center. You usually have to do one side at a time. Where on the rear of the car you can jack up on the tow hook, or the, you know, where the rear control arms go on to the center. You can jack there, but yeah. Looks like these guys had the right idea at one point. They were jacking up on the radiator support. That's why I was saying that. You can see these radiator supports are usually always, you know, pinched up and messed up. now she's up in the air. Let's take a look. Starting at the muffler, we got a MagnaFlow muffler welded on here. Stock lower control arms. We got the what are those? The Skunk 2? Oh no, those are blocks coilovers. Pretty clean underneath. That looks a little sketchy. Brake line or something. A lot of these Hondas have like a coating over the actual metal line. So like the rest of the way down the whole track here looks awesome on the brake lines and fuel lines. But right here looks like something happened. I don't know what. And we got a decent exhaust on it. She's pretty choked back here. Looks like they did some AutoZone piping right here or something where they got the ridges in the exhaust pipe, which those are usually pretty constricted. This is probably down to 1 3/4 or 2 inch right here at this section, where the rest of it's probably 2 1/4, 2 1/2. The resonator right here, another straight section, a little bit 2 1/4 or so, 2 1/2, and then the header looks pretty choked too. This is pretty small, but whatever. It's just a stock B16, so it doesn't really need a whole ton of exhaust flow. Back of the engine here looks like we might have some seeping going on the oil pan, but I guarantee if you brake cleaned and wiped all this off, it would stay dry for quite a while. Looks like we got a little oil leak at the black box container. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but there is some oil coming out. Not bad. Probably run it. We got a new axle on the driver's side here. All suspension parts look fairly good. It's got new upper control arms way up there. You can see that. Those are brand new. We got a stock axle on this side. Same brand new upper control arm over there. Little transmission leak. Nothing terrible. Make sure that drain plug's tight. Sometimes they leak out of the drain plug or that crush washer right there. Small dent on the oil pan. Nothing really. It's got a turbo bung on it, so it's got a return line spot on the oil pan already, so maybe this engine was boosted at one point. Crank pulley is in good condition. A lot of times these get chewed up and banged up, so I always check those too. What else? Got a little bit of oil on the front of the engine. I mean, nothing that's not normal. This is all kind of typical stuff that you see. Maybe a little cam seal leak or something. Nothing terrible. Honestly, you can run this thing for a while. It'll be fine. Looks like we got a little coolant leak coming out of that drain plug, or somewhere down here. We'll make sure that that's nice and tight. Yeah, see, I got about a half a turn out of that, so hopefully that leak will go away. All right, so next I'm gonna go ahead and take this tire off, or at least shake the wheels, make sure there's no play in the bearings or anything like that. And then we'll just kind of inspect the lug nut situation over here, just to be sure that maybe it just had the wrong lug nuts on it. So we'll go from there. All right, so a guy went ahead and took the tire off here on this side, and those two lug nuts are kind of the same style all around, which sucks because they don't really bottom out in the wheel properly. Like they recess into the wheel quite a bit, so the lug nut actually rides on like the taper, which is probably how it should be, but it just doesn't seem right to me for some reason. Oh, focus. So you can see kind of where the wheel is riding on the lug nut. It's a little bit uneven, you know, like it was in there kind of crooked or wasn't all the way tight. So one of the two, it either wasn't all the way tight, or these, you know, this is just kind of not the right lug nut for these wheels. I don't know exactly what type it should have, but like I said, this is kind of the same style it has all the way around the car. And another thing I did off camera is I just kind of went through and I checked all the other lug nuts, and pretty much I could have loosened all the lug nuts on the car with a 1/4 inch ratchet. So I went through and I tightened them all up, and these ones were all loose. Back ones, there was 2 of them that were like halfway backed out, so that one was next to have the wheel fall off. You know, probably another 30 minutes of driving or so, those would probably have backed out. So I went through, tightened them all up properly. And this is the culprit when the lug nuts aren't all the way tight, is they break the wheel studs when the wheel, you know, rocks back and forth from the lug nuts being loose. And another thing is you know, having the wrong lug nuts, or you know, not a proper like shank style lug nut where it holds the wheel center. That's another culprit, where if you don't have the lug nuts all the way tight, the wheel can kind of slosh back and forth. And I'm assuming that's what happened here. And I also have a 17 millimeter wrench out, because as I was sitting here just kind of, you know, brainstorming ideas for this thing, I did see that one of these bell housing bolts, there's a gap. So I put a wrench on it, and look at that. So we'll get these bell housing bolts tightened up. I guess it might come from experience. You kind of know how tight bolts should be. But this one is definitely not tight enough. As you can see, I've gotten quite a few turns out of this bolt. Should probably get a ratchet, be a lot easier. But I'll struggle with a wrench instead. Actually, I think we got a stripped guy. This might be stripped out, because it ain't tightening up. Ooh. Nope. It gets tight and then keeps spinning, so there's that. We'll check another one just for shits. Alright, so all the other ones are tight. That's good. So next we're going to have to get this spindle off. So we're going to have to take the brakes off, the tie rod, the upper ball joint, and the lower ball joint. Most of these are all 17 millimeter. Ugh. I'll grab the impact. First, we're going to start with the axle nut, 32 millimeter. Next is the, you know, upper lower tie rod. Those are all 17 mil, and then the brakes are, I think, like a 17 or something for the whole bracket. Alright guys, so I got all the wheel studs removed without removing the spindle. Sometimes you have to remove the spindle, other times you don't, but I just got the brakes taken off here, and you can see I just got it zip tied to the control arm. I have all the bolts off to take the spindle off, but I don't think I'm going to need to. I think I can just take a new stud and pound it in through the backside, and it should be alright. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to run to the parts store, get 4 new studs, and yeah, I checked all the other ball joints and stuff like that. They all seem fine, so I think the reason this happened is just because, you know, the guy didn't tighten the lug nuts all the way, or whatever. But let's go get some new studs and throw it in there. Alrighty guys, so I just got back from the parts store, and like I said, we're not going to take the spindle off to do this. I just am going to do it this way, where I can put them in one at a time. So I got one of them already installed. I'm going to show you kind of the procedure that I'm doing, as we're using this section where there's the opening for the brakes normally, and we're going to just put the studs in through here. But first, before we do that, I'm grinding on the new stud just a little flat spot on the wheel stud. So I was just taking these to the bench grinder, and I ground down, focus. So I ground down a little flat spot for the wheel stud so it can slide in easier. Then I can take and put that flat spot towards the spindle, just like so, and then give her a couple love taps to get it started. Then I have a couple washers and a nut. So I put the nut on, a couple of these washers, and then I'm taking one of the lug nuts from the back, and I just give her a couple ugga-duggas till I bottoms out. Then I'm just inspecting the studs to make sure I didn't mess them up when I installed them, and these ones look dialed. So threads didn't get messed up, or nothing doing it that way. Worked good, and it's nice and flat on the back of the hub here. So we'll just continue to do this for the rest of them and get everything put back on. All right, she's all back together. Got everything tidied back up. Brake hose, brakes, well, the bolts for the ball joints, tie rods. Now we just got to put the tire on and probably run around and check the air pressure on all the tires and send her out the door. Alrighty guys, that's going to be it for this one. Everything's good. A lot of the tires are really low, so I pumped them all up. So hopefully they won't be too super low when he comes to get it. I don't know if they leak, you know, around the beads. A lot of these aluminum wheels, you know, if they're not cleaned up very well, they'll leak. The tires will leak. But anyways, topped the oil off for them. And yeah, just checked everything over, and there we are. So out the door she goes. Hopefully she'll come back someday for a tune-up. Motor actually is built from the previous owner. His ad description, it's got Eagle rods and stuff in it, so maybe one day we'll do a turbo kit on this thing. That'd be really cool. It's a nice looking car, and I'd love to be a part of the build. So anyways, thanks for watching guys. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. I'm probably going to run and take my engine block up to the machine shop and fill a couple more injector orders before I get out of here. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and have a great night and better tomorrow. See you later.